Welcome to the KIMIYA Healing Podcast. I'm your host, Safa Boga, and I'm very happy that you've tuned in. Today I'm going to be talking about the cost of healing versus the cost of not healing. Now, this is important because a lot of the time I hear from people that they cannot afford therapy, or they cannot afford healing, or healing sessions are too expensive. And there's a trend in that I see and hear this from people who are most in need of the healing work. And exploring, if you do hold this belief, exploring this belief for yourself is really, really important. In my own personal healing journey, I cannot tell you how much I've spent, not just on healing myself, but also on educating myself, on training myself, on being able to invest in my practice so that I can help other people. And ultimately, I've invested in my growth. And that has amounted to thousands and thousands of pounds over the last 7 years. And have I seen a return on investment? Absolutely. I've seen a return on investment in all areas of my life, in my physical health, my emotional vitality, my energetic and spiritual path, my inner growth, my family connection, my relationships, pretty much every aspect of where you could determine a return on investment has definitely been there. So I have absolutely no qualms about investing in something that works, that is effective, that gets me a result, that gets me from A to B. And at the beginning of the healing journey, when you've not really done much inner work, when perhaps there's a lot of confusion, maybe there is a lot of resistance and fear, that's when generally you'll come up against this belief system that therapy is too expensive, I can't afford to heal, healing sessions are too expensive, etc., etc. And really what it comes down to is, are you willing to invest in the greatest asset, which is yourself, which is your health, which is your nervous system? And that's a very, very important question that you want to ask yourself. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is really understanding, why do you want to invest in yourself? So when clients come to me and they ask me about support with healing, I also ask them about what their healing goals are. And I call it magic wand. Not that it's magic and it happens overnight, but I want to know what the dreams are. I want to know what your dreams are. I want to know what your aspirations are. I want to know what you value so that your transformation path can be really clear. Where are we taking you from? We're taking you from point A to point B. What does it look like? And where will you be at the end of the program? People who are in the early stages of trauma healing journey often have lived with the feeling of a dysregulated nervous system for so long that it becomes very hard to imagine what point B looks like. And I often come across clients who don't even know because they've never dared to dream, because they've never had that inner clarity, or they've never had the sense of hope that they could even imagine what they want. And for some people, it's really triggering to even explore what it is that they want, because it makes them realize that they're really, really far from what they want. And that can create a lot of shame. But it's important to, within yourself, determine what you want to get out of a healing program and where you want to be. When you figured that out, when you figured out where you want to be health-wise, where you want to be emotionally, how you want to feel, how you want the world to feel, etc., what you want to create, then you want to understand what is the value of all of that to you, right? What is the value to you of feeling safe in your body? What is the value to you of being able to feel your body? What is the value to you of being able to be present with yourself and feel who you really are, rather than feeling all of the heavy, painful trauma and emotions that are held in your body? What's the value of being able to wake up every morning and feel hopeful? Being able to be productive in your job, being able to even be in the right job for you? What's the value of having supportive and connecting relationships? What's the value of finally understanding yourself? What's the value of finally loving yourself? Of understanding your purpose? Of integrating your pain in order to understand your purpose? All of that is priceless. That is honestly priceless. You cannot just go and transact that. It's not transactional. You cannot easily obtain that. You cannot easily just go over the counter and buy that, right? You can't just buy a course and suddenly it all drops in. There we go, done. £200, I'm done. It doesn't happen like that. You need to understand the value of what your goals are and what your dreams are. And when you realize that the value is so high, is so valuable to you, it's so priceless, and often it's something that you've never had or never dared to dream you could ever get, it becomes even more valuable. And once you figure this out and you've made that list of what you really want, how you really want to feel, it becomes so much easier to understand the cost of staying where you are. Because staying where you are, holding unresolved trauma, holding unconscious trauma, intergenerational pain, holding yourself back from your true potential, that comes with a cost. And a lot of people don't do that analysis. They don't do the analysis of, okay, how much is it actually costing me to continue being who I am, living as I am, not resolving my stuff, not healing my pain? What's that costing me? And I can tell you, it's costing you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds or dollars, if you're in the US listening to this, because you are so far from your potential. You are so far from what you could be living that there is a cost. It's called an opportunity cost. And opportunity cost needs to be factored in when you make a decision about where to invest and how much to invest in your healing journey. And people don't usually think like this, but I encourage my clients to think like this, especially if they are in the early stages of their healing journey and they're coming up against a lot of resistance when it comes to investing in themselves. The third thing I'd like to say is that this resistance towards investing in yourself relates to self-worth and self-belief. You might have spun a story to make it feel like, actually, you know, I really got these other responsibilities that are more important, and it's more important for me to send my child to private school. It's more important for me to go on my couple of annual holidays a year. It's more important for me to continue what I'm doing now. That's more valuable to me. And therefore I just don't have the money. I can't afford it. And if you examine that in a bit more detail, what you're actually going to arrive at is what you've spun to protect yourself from deeply examining your self-worth, your self-belief, and your potential. The potential that you hold. And human beings hold so much untapped potential. And I love to use the analogy of the shadow as holding all of this unmanifest light, all of this unmanifest potential. All of this unmanifest love lives in the fear. It lives in those places that we don't want to go anywhere near. And allowing yourself to examine whether it's self-worth that's getting in the way. Those things that you might feel like, I just don't really feel like I deserve to heal. And that's very real. That's very, very real. People who've come from a background of where there's been a lot of trauma, particularly ancestral trauma, will often not feel worthy of healing themselves because nobody else in their line felt worthy Nobody parented them in a way to demonstrate their worth to them. So they don't feel worthy of anything apart from living in fear. They don't feel worthy of anything apart from being bogged down and stagnant and stuck. They don't feel worthy of experiencing joy and bliss and peace and harmony and being excited about the world. They don't feel worthy of that. And that is the greatest travesty, when you don't feel worthy to obtain what you actually already have within you. When you don't feel worthy of allowing yourself to be who you really are. The opportunity cost of not being who you really are is a complete self-sacrifice of your entire life. Now, that is expensive, right? Staying in a job that doesn't make you happy and fulfilled because you're too scared to examine your beliefs and your potential, and you're too scared to take action towards your goals because you have unhealed trauma, is expensive. You could be holding yourself back from starting the business that you're well and truly capable of running and thriving in it and being fulfilled, not just financially, but also fulfilled emotionally and at a heart level by being in service the way that you want to be, whatever that is that you dream of doing. And I've met people who have put other priorities above their healing when they needed it the most, when they were most mentally fragile and in need of support, when they were most wounded. And actually what ends up happening is that they end up having to pay for that later down the line. Whether it's because they're having to take time off work because they're ill and they're chronically stressed, or their health conditions have now led to them not being able to operate at that level of efficiency that's required for the job. And in the end, they are the ones that are losing out because of everything they have to sacrifice. And this is why it's related to self-worth. Because when you turn around and say to yourself, I deserve better, then you will start to work towards giving yourself something better. The second issue here is self-belief. People at the early stages of a healing journey don't necessarily have the conviction, that deep, visceral conviction. Why? Because the deep, visceral connection is not there. The embodiment is not there. You cannot have deep conviction if you are dissociated. You cannot have deep clarity if your nervous system is dysregulated, because you will never be able to be still enough to have clarity. You're caught up in the tides, you're caught up in the tornadoes and the vortexes and the whirlwinds that are happening inside you every day, trying to manage it and trying to keep a lid on it. Self-belief requires you to be able to move towards an acceptance that you can heal, you can transform yourself, you can change your life. And if you've not done that ever, right? Or if you've not done that consistently, or if you've dropped in and then dropped out and not really had any real result, because either you've been working with the wrong people, you've been working in the wrong way, or you haven't really been doing the deep work that you need to do, but you've been popping in and out of healing spaces. And trust me, people do this. In fact, people do this even, and a lot of the time it happens with plant medicine, psychedelic work, where people want to experience something. They often want a quick fix. But when it comes to the self-belief of whether they can really integrate and commit to doing inner healing work every single day, they don't have that belief that they can do it. And not having belief and self-belief impacts not just what you perceive the point B to be, but it impacts how quickly you get there and what you allow yourself to heal and what you allow yourself to receive. So self-belief is something that we cultivate through our experience. Self-belief doesn't just come We're not just all born with this unwavering self-belief, right? We have to grow it. We have to cultivate it. And we can only cultivate it if we let ourselves have experiences that are deep enough to show us what we're capable of overcoming. And if we never put ourselves in that place where we can overcome trauma, if we never allow ourselves to heal in the first place, then what happens is we don't develop self-belief. And I come across experienced and trained healers, psychotherapists, therapists, body workers, the list goes on, who haven't cultivated this deep, visceral, embodied self-belief. And yet they're working on other people. Now, I'm a firm believer. You can only support someone to free themselves to the extent that you have freed yourself. You can only support someone to see themselves at the extent that you have seen yourself. And you can only support someone's system to be still to the degree that you yourself have cultivated that field of stillness. And this is very important, because otherwise we have traumatized people working on traumatized people. And look, everyone has trauma. Everyone's holding trauma. But when it leads to chronic dysregulation, when it leads to pervading levels of fear, when it leads to steep resistance to going within, and then you're charging people to come and heal in your space, let me be totally frank. It's called hypocrisy. And if the world is going to move forward and take healing work seriously, it needs to be effective and it needs to be clear. And that is required, and that begins with the practitioner themselves. You can only be effective for somebody else if you are effective within yourself. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, wow, okay, this is actually relevant to me and my practice, and maybe you're noticing that your practice is not growing. Maybe you're noticing that you have been stagnant for the last 5 years in your business, in your practice, in your coaching business, for example, or wherever it is, in your job, in your career, in your life, then take this on board, because this advice is free, and taking this advice on board can help you to change your life and move forward with momentum. So self-belief, self-conviction, self-worth. The healing journey is priceless because it gives you deeper ways to access self-love, self-compassion, self-belief. And often, if you are in deep states of trauma, if you are in deep fear states, you will not be able to do this on your own because you're in it, right? When you're in it, it's very difficult to create space, the space that's required for you to be able to observe yourself. It's very difficult for you to create stillness, the stillness that's required for you to be able to transmute all that moves, or even observe what's moving. You're too busy moving. How can you observe what's moving? And this is where people get really stuck, because they can't separate what's them from what's coming in externally. They can't separate. And inner clarity is absolutely priceless. It opens up your channels. It opens up your channels of perception, your channels of wisdom, your channels of feeling. And through this, you can cultivate so much more in your life. So consider this before you are quick to assume that healing work is too expensive, right? Another point I want to make is around doing some kind of cost analysis about how much you've spent in your life so far on healing in spaces that just simply haven't been deeply enough attuned to your needs, right? This is very common. And I get people that come to me and they say, I've spent the last 15 years of my life trying to heal myself. and I still feel like this. And when I ask them, roughly how much have you spent in this across these 15 years, through all of your going to see God knows who, through all of your ceremonies, through all of your training, through all of your sessions that you've been having, how much do you reckon you've spent? And you know what they say? They say, I have no idea. Wow. You've been making an investment in yourself for 15 years and you have no idea what that figure is. That is negligence, quite frankly. You're neglecting the very inputs to calculate the inputs. So how on earth are you going to know whether what you're getting is meeting your needs and is giving you a return on investment? You don't know, right? So then when you start to access spaces that are much more profoundly deep and much more profoundly healing, you've got this backdrop of having spent so much money already. So then why do I want to spend more? I don't know if I'm going to get what I need. I don't believe I'm going to get what I need. I don't even know what I need, right? So think about it. How much you've spent over the last 10, 15 years on healing work, and where have you got as a result of it? Maybe you've done loads of work and you've got really far and you've overcome loads, right? It's still a good exercise to do. And now think about the cost of investing in a 6 to 12 week program with me, where I will be very, very clear with you about what needs to be done in each session, where you're going to end up after each session. And after every single session live, you're going to feel a transformation, right? The cost of that versus the cost of what you've spent for the last 15 years, I can guarantee you is a drop in the ocean. Guarantee you. Every single client I've asked to do this analysis who's gone through my programs comes out the other end going, wow, that was the best investment I ever made in myself. Hands down. And then you know what they say? They say, I want to do more. Can I do more? Can I do another program? When's the next womb room opening? Right? Why do people say that? Because they're getting the transformation that they need. And there's value there. High value. It's priceless for your life. Now, this is where self-belief and self-conviction starts to really manifest. Because now I've shown you that you can go from A to B. You can do it. And you've done it. Wow. It's like a whole new world for people. It's a whole new landscape has opened up within them. It's a whole new identity, right? I work at an identity level transformation. You will not be the same person if you are doing what you need to do in every single session that I lay out for you. Because every single thing is purposeful. If you stick with it and you dedicate yourself and commit yourself to doing every single thing, you cannot go wrong. You absolutely cannot go wrong. Where it starts to go wrong is when there's high levels of resistance, high levels of distraction, when there's high levels of complacency, right? When people don't do the assigned practices in between sessions, for example, which are designed to help them, which are free. If you don't want to do that, I say this to my clients. I say, if you don't do what has been set out for you between now and the next session, you are at risk of repeating work. I don't want you to repeat work. I am not one of those practitioners who wants to keep you as my client for 5-10 years. In the same level of consciousness, the same state, no more evolved, no more empowered. That's a trap. Yeah? And trust me, lots of therapists do that. Why? Because they themselves are not growing and evolving. Their practices are not growing and evolving. And therefore, they love to hold on to these long-term clients. I don't want you to be my long-term client. That's why I've never set out one-to-one programs that are very long-term. because you need to be able to evolve. You need to be able to grow, and you need to be able to leave your therapist or practitioner and go off and experience the world and be a different person, rather than sitting in the chair or lying on the couch and going through the same thing with the same person, right? You should be able to move forward. And if my clients are not moving forward, we explore that. We explore that deeply, deeply in the sessions. And this clarity has come through my life experiences. It's come through me realizing that sitting in the same space, week after week, month after month, year after year, I've never been inclined to do that. Because why would I? If I'm growing and I'm moving fast and I'm evolving at lightning speed and I'm fulfilling all of my dreams, why would I be back in the same space? I wouldn't. Healing doesn't happen overnight, right? Trauma healing doesn't happen overnight. But it also doesn't require 10 years with the same therapist, 5 years with the same therapist, working on the same issues. And a lot of the time this comes because people are not working somatically. There's a cost to that. It's expensive. Think about how much you've spent churning through the same material. Or maybe you've danced around and covered different topics, but just think about how much you could be creating in your life and what the value is of what you could create if you really were evolving into the person that you want to be. Because trust me, the healing journey is not going to keep you stagnant. A real empowering healing journey is designed to take you into who you really want to be and help you create what you want to create. Do you know what you want to create and the value of that? If I'm very clear with myself and I say, okay, I know what the value of my practice needs to be in a year's time, and I know in order to get there, I have to resolve these certain things within myself, and trust me, I check in with myself every single day about whether I'm doing what I need to do for myself in order to be the person that I know I'm capable of being. The value of that is clear to me. So if I then find a healing program that I know is going to take me from A to B, or is going to help me with this particular component, it's easy for me to make an investment decision. The reason why it's not easy for you to make an investment decision in a healing program that can potentially transform your life is because you don't know what your potential is, and you also don't know what transformation you want. So in my consultation process, I help my potential client to get very clear on this. This is not how people tend to think, right? When you're in distress, I'll be honest with you. So the early stage of the healing journey, you tend to be in high levels of distress, high levels of dysregulation, high levels of fear, high levels of resistance, probably not thinking about, your highest self or fulfillment. You're not thinking about those high level needs. You're quite frankly, probably not feeling safe in your body. Therefore, to think about all of this is like, whoa, that's a lot. Like that might even take you 2 weeks, right? Further down, when you're further along the path, you've done a lot of inner work, you've done a lot of somatic integration, you know your body, you know your energetics, you're in a very different place. The clients there that come to see me who are at that later stage, they are very clear, crystal clear about what they want to feel and what they want to create and why it matters to them. And they will never have an issue investing because they know it's going to get them there, right? And they know the value of that to them. So it's so easy to make that decision. Now, I'm not just in the business of helping people who are further along the journey, because I really believe that, especially when it comes to womb embodiment and womb consciousness and higher states of consciousness, we have to go through that painful trauma journey. We have to go through that excruciating shadow period, that dark night of the soul, that place where we feel completely lost, completely alone, totally unsure about what our body's doing at any one moment in time, totally out of control, powerless. We have to feel powerless if we want to go on a journey towards embodying our power, right? Complacency is expensive Because people who are comfortable and complacent are never moved enough. Often they don't even begin the journey because they are comfortable in this material matrix. Often emotions have been shut down, the nervous system's been desensitized, there's a whole load of structures around them materially that prevent them from actually feeling the deep levels of discomfort that they would need to feel in order to go deep enough into their own consciousness and start asking some questions. So I believe trauma is a gateway to embodiment, and embodiment is a gateway to spiritual expansion, to the mystic's level of revelation, inner revelation, to you becoming a channel for absolutely anything that you want to create. I believe that. Why do I believe that? And why do I know that? Because I've been on that journey myself. I've been on that journey. And I know, and I always said to myself while I was on that journey, I always said, wow, if I can do it, absolutely anyone can do it. That's the truth. Because I did it alone. I did it with no information. I did it with no support. I did it literally finding my own way, navigating my own way through the dark. And realizing that it's possible with persistence and consistency and radical self-honesty. It's possible to go through that journey. And that is the journey that we are all going through at any one point in time. We are always in it, right? We are always evolving. We are always deepening our embodiment. We are always expanding our consciousness to incorporate more and more. And why wouldn't we be? This is the beauty and the joy and the gift. But we keep ourselves so small, and the way we keep ourselves small is by refusing to invest in ourselves when we know we have work to do, right? When you refuse to invest in a house where the windows are broken, the floorboards are creaky, the carpet's worn out, the foundations are starting to get affected. When you refuse to invest in the house, but you still choose to live in the house, how are you going to feel? It's going to be very expensive to keep patching things up. Your heating bill is going to be very expensive for a start. People don't consider this until the house comes crashing down. Subsidence. Oh dear. Now what? Now we've got a big bill on our hands. Right? And it's human nature. We don't often come to healing work until we're really, really facing something that is making us feel very disturbed or very, in our bodies, very physically painful. It takes a lot to alert us that we need to heal, right? This is human nature. And this is why we have those difficult periods of our lives where things really start to feel dark and things really feel difficult and we feel despair. We need that. Otherwise, would we ever pick up the phone and make that call? Would we ever book that consultation? Would we ever dare to deeply inquire if we were not deeply disturbed? The answer is no. So think about all of this when it comes to how you are showing up for yourself in your life, for your potential. Think about the cost that you've spent already and how far it's got you. And now think about the cost of not being the person that you're truly capable of being for yourself, the opportunity cost. Finally, the work I do is holistic. That's a big word. It can mean anything. I'm going to tell you specifically what it means. The work I do is about supporting you to heal at a somatic, emotional, psychological, energetic, ancestral, and collective level. I work with all levels of consciousness to help you heal from the inside out. Requires absolute immense dedication, right? Dedication from me and dedication from you. And that's what I look for from my clients. We both need to be absolutely dedicated to getting this work done. Now, when my clients come to see me, essentially, because I'm doing so much work in one session, I'm doing structural work, I'm doing emotional work with them, I'm doing deep psychological reprogramming, I'm working on their brain, I'm working on their spine, I'm working on absolutely everything I can find, all at the same time, right? Purposefully. I'm working on their energetics, working on them being able to build their future dreams, I'm working on their potential. I'm not just working on the trauma, I'm working on the transformation, right? And so are you when you come into this space. If you want to go and see multiple different practitioners, right? If you want to go and see a spiritual guide, if you want to go and see then a body worker, then you want to go and see a craniosacral practitioner, then you want to go and see an energy healer, and then maybe you also want to go and see a chiropractor. You want to go and see all these people, right? And a life coach, and another talking therapist. How much are you going to pay? Ask yourself, do the calculations. How much are you going to end up spending per month on that? It's going to be a lot of money. First of all, it's going to be a lot of money. Second of all, you're going to fragment yourself, right? You're fragmenting yourself in an already fragmented paradigm. And we do not heal like that. The body doesn't heal without us going deeply into our unconscious trauma and unconscious belief. Pain doesn't just resolve itself if we don't change our lifestyle and our behavior and our diet. We have to do work holistically. Now, because I do all of that up front at the same time, you are getting the value of multiple practitioners working at depth who have a cohesive view of you as a person. When you spread yourself out and you compartmentalize your trauma, what you're doing is diluting the effect. You're paying more money, you're diluting the effect, and you're fragmenting yourself because not one single practitioner has a holistic view of you, right? And maybe you don't want them to. Consider whether the fact that you're doing this is a way for you to hide. Oh, I just go every week and get my adjustments done at the chiropractor because, they don't ask me about my trauma. They don't ask me about how I feel emotionally in my relationship. I don't have to think about any of that. I don't have to think about my inner child. I don't have to go to deep places of fear. Think about if you're only doing psychedelic work, if you're only doing plant medicine, are you actually working somatically with your body? I come across so many people who've been in dozens and dozens of psychedelic work, psychedelic spaces and plant medicine ceremonies, and they have no idea how to feel their own body. But they've been off riding multicolour unicorns in the multiverse and still stuck in the same body, right? So you pay thousands of pounds for that. One single retreat, thousands of pounds, right? It's very important that you work at a holistic level and work with a practitioner like me who actually knows what they're doing and is going to deliver you a result. Now, this requires you to believe that you deserve it. Yeah. And a lot of you are going to be listening to this going, well, that sounds terrifying. And that fear is you being called into a deeper place of self-love. Yeah? For those of you who've already worked with me, who are listening to this, you'll probably be smiling and nodding and being like, yep, I know exactly what I got. That's what I needed. And I got it. And what she's saying is absolutely spot on. Because you've experienced it. Right? You've experienced your transformation. You've experienced how it makes you feel when you actually do the work that you need to do and get the support that meets you at that depth that you need to be met. And let me tell you, most people do not know the depth that they need to be met at. I will show you the depth that you deserve to be met at. And that's where we will work. So think about making investment decisions for you that generate a return on investment. To understand whether you're getting a return on investment, you need to know what the outcome should look like. If you don't know what the outcome should look like, discuss it. Figure it out. Journal around it. Dare to dream, right? When in the consultation, if you're thinking about making a consultation with me, this is what we're going to be talking about as well. People get stuck and don't heal because they don't know what they want. They've been so used to pain for so many years. They've been so used to dysfunction for so many years. They just don't even know who they are or what they want. Right? It's such a horrible place to be in life. And trust me, I know what that feels like. That's why I'm talking very, very openly about these things on this podcast. Because you can only talk about what you've experienced directly. Otherwise, it's not real. And I know what that feels like. So I also know the cost of that. It cost me everything. It cost me my job, my relationships, my sanity, my mental health, my physical health. My perception of myself changed when I was going through all of that. But you know what? Going through and investing in a healing journey that actually is effective is going to help you really get to where you want to be. Together, we figure out where you need to be and why. And if you don't know, it's even more important. When there is unconscious trauma, this is the last thing I'm going to say. When there is unconscious trauma, often unconscious child abuse, unconscious sexual abuse, unconscious deep levels of neglect emotionally in the household that you've carried with you into adulthood and now you're 40, 50, 60, when this is how you've been operating with that level of unconscious trauma in your body, it becomes very hard to know what you want, to desire, to dream, to believe, to have hope. You don't have hope. You just want it. You want it to all go away. So you set the benchmark really low. And when there's unconscious trauma, you'll be very confused. I'll tell you that now. You'll be very confused, including in the consultation. You'll be like, well, I don't even really know what I need to do. And I don't even really know what I want. Because it's not clear. So often that first cycle that I will do with you is to help you to get clear on what has happened to you. And the big question is, do you want to know? That is the big question. Do you really want to know the truth? And I will ask my clients this. Because if you don't want to know the truth, I will say, save your money. Go and spend it on a holiday instead. And if you tell me you want to know the truth, but your body is saying something completely different, and I invite you to check in with your body, and you're still unwilling to admit that you're scared and that you don't really want to know, then we do some work around that. And I will support you to be really honest and real with yourself. Because the last thing I would ever want is a client to come in to a program saying that they want to heal, and they want to know the truth of unconscious trauma. They really want to know the truth of what happened to them in their childhood, but actually they don't. Because they're too scared about how this is going to disrupt their identity and disrupt their life. I'd rather say, be honest with yourself from the outset and save yourself the money. However, the clients that come in to see me and do say they want to know, and trust me, I work with some absolute fierce warriors who have been through hell. I cannot even describe to you the living hell that some of my clients have been through. And they come to me and they say, I know who you are. I know what you can do for me. I know your work. I know who you've worked with. I've seen the results that you've helped other people get. I want to know everything. I want to know absolutely everything. And then I say, why? Why do you want to know? Because some people want to know so they can beat themselves up. That's what shame does. That's what trauma does. I want to know so I can hate myself even more. So I can tell myself every day that I'm a failure, that I'm not worthy, that I am broken. Why do you want to know the truth? And I get warriors that come in and say, I want to know because I want to be able to love myself because I finally got to the point in my life where I realized I need this. I deserve this. And I want to be able to love my family. And I know right now I can't because of what is unresolved in me. Because I don't know the truth of what happened. And they are the people that go on the most profound transformational healing journeys that end up going from places where all they ever cried was tears of sadness and grief and loneliness to crying tears of bliss. And I'm talking about in a number of sessions, as in 3-4 sessions, right? This is why it comes down to self-belief, self-conviction, and clarity about what you want. You can literally have that transformation in a number of sessions. If you are falling into that latter category, show me everything. I want to know. I'll see it all. I'll feel it all. That's fearless. You got to be fearless to come and healing this space. I'll be honest with you. This is a very, very deep field that I hold for you. And you will rise beyond who you ever thought you could be. And you will be that person. You will be that man. You will be that woman. And you will look back and go, wow, I did it. I did what I thought I could never do, but I hoped that one day I would give myself the chance. I did it. And that feeling creates more self-belief. When you have self-belief, when you have self-love as a foundation for your house, as a foundation of your structure, foundation for yourself energetically, you cannot go wrong. You can only ever be right. Why? Because your behaviors reflect the fact that you love yourself so much. Therefore, you're never going to wrong yourself. You're only ever going to do right by yourself. You're only ever going to stay aligned to what you truly are and who you truly are, and how you really want to feel, and what you deserve. That is a priceless life. That you cannot buy off the shelf. That is absolutely priceless. I can tell you that from now. Most people in this world do not have that level of self-belief and self-conviction. We are living in a world that is preying on people like that. We are living in a world that is cultivating more fear to keep you trapped in fear so that you never develop belief in your own body. You never develop belief in your own immune system. You never cultivate self-love because you can't feel. Because it's too dangerous to feel. It's too dangerous to feel your own body. There's too much fear around. You're numb. That's expensive. It's a very expensive way to live your life. If you've listened to this and you are absolutely moved and excited, maybe even a little bit nervous and scared, but you're like, I want to book that consultation, book it. Make the call, schedule a call with me, and we will talk about your needs in detail and what your transformation looks like. If you want to know more about what clients experience, please check out my website, KIMIYAhealing.co.uk. You can read the testimonial section. I don't edit them. They are as they come. They are your words. Read them. Have a look. Most of you will be able to resonate with what people have experienced. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up and wish you well, and can't wait to see you on the next podcast. So look after yourselves and look after each other, and remember that you are here to become your greatest.